The Great Council Chamber floated in space above Varan Prime, a massive structure that had witnessed 12,000 years of galactic diplomacy. Inside its curved walls, representatives from 300 species gathered to debate the fate of civilizations. The air hummed with translation devices, converting thousands of languages into comprehensible speech. Captain Dion Kim stood at the observation deck of the persistent Dawn, watching the council station through reinforced glass. He had been stationed here for 6 years, watching humanity's diplomats walk into that chamber day after day, year after year, with hope that slowly turned to frustration. Today felt different. Ambassador Hyjin Park sat in the human delegation section, her face calm but her hands gripped tightly in her lap. Beside her, 20 other human representatives waited in silence. They had brought evidence this time. Real evidence that could not be ignored or dismissed. The Thrace Dominion had taken New Bizon. The colony world had 2 million human inhabitants. Families who had built cities and farms over 3 generations. The Thrace fleet arrived one morning and declared the world abandoned territory. When the colonists protested, Thrace soldiers rounded them up. What happened next was captured on hidden surveillance systems that continued recording even after the networks went dark. Mass graves, execution sites, children's schools turned into processing centers. Hyjin had presented the evidence 3 months ago. Video recordings, genetic samples smuggled out by survivors, testimony from the 17,000 humans who managed to escape. The proof was undeniable. The council's response had arrived this morning. A formal statement, read by the Varani High Speaker in a voice that suggested mild inconvenience. The council would form an investigative committee. Findings would be delivered in 8 to 12 standard years. In the meantime, all parties should maintain peace and continue diplomatic channels. 8 to 12 years. Doyen had watched Hyjin's face when she received the message. Something broke behind her eyes, something that had been bending for 3 decades, but finally snapped. Now she stood at the speaker's podium, requesting one final address to the council. The Varani High Speaker granted it with obvious boredom. Another human complaint. Another emotional outburst from the young species who did not understand how galactic politics worked. Hyjin activated the podium's microphone. Her voice carried through the chamber with perfect clarity. Honored members of the Galactic Council, she began. Humanity has sat at this table for 32 years. We came with hope. We came believing that civilization meant justice, that laws applied equally, that the strong protected the weak. The chamber listened with half attention. Many representatives worked on data tablets, reviewing other matters. We were wrong, Hyjin continued. We believed words had meaning here. That evidence mattered. That 2 million lives were worth more than political convenience. Some representatives looked up now, sensing something unusual in her tone. We brought you proof of genocide. You offered us a committee. We brought you the screams of our children. You offered us patience. Hyjin's voice remained steady, but it carried through the chamber like a blade. We understand now. This council does not serve justice. It serves comfort. It serves the powerful. It serves everyone except those who need protection most. The Varani High Speaker stirred. Ambassador Park, if you are finished with your statement, I am not finished, Hyjin said quietly. The firmness in her voice made the speaker pause. Humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. We will no longer participate in this theater. We will no longer beg for scraps of dignity. We will handle our affairs ourselves. Silence crashed through the chamber like a physical force. Species did not leave the council. It was unthinkable. Where would they go? How would they trade? How would they survive without council protection and access to council space? The Thrace representative stood, his vertical mouth splitting in what might have been amusement. The humans make empty threats. They will return within a cycle, begging for readmission. Haijin looked directly at him. Her next words were spoken softly, but every translator in the chamber carried them with crystal clarity. You will find out. She disconnected from the podium and walked toward the exit. The other human representatives stood and followed her without a word. They moved in silence through the council chamber, past species who had ignored their pleas, past the Thrace delegation that had murdered their people, past the Varani who had ruled that their suffering could wait. Doyun watched from the persistent dawn as the human delegation shuttle departed the council station. Within minutes, his communication console lit up with priority orders. All human vessels were to evacuate council space immediately. All human citizens were to be recalled from council worlds. All human trade stations were to be abandoned, not destroyed. Abandoned. The operation took 72 hours. Across council space, humans simply left. Traders closed their shops and departed. Diplomats boarded ships and vanished. Scientists at collaborative research stations packed their equipment and disappeared. Students at council universities withdrew and went home. Human ships converged on the border of council space, then jumped beyond the outer veil, a region considered too dangerous and resource-poor for colonization. The council had never bothered claiming it, because nothing of value existed there. Or so they believed. Diane stood on the bridge of the Persistent, dawn as it made the final jump. Behind them, council space continued its business. Ahead, the outer veil waited in darkness. Course plotted for Rally Point Meridian, his navigation officer reported. Execute, Diane ordered. The ship jumped, and council space vanished behind them. Diane looked at the empty starfield ahead and thought about Haijin's final words to the council. You will find out. The galaxy would indeed find out what humanity could do when it stopped asking for permission, when it stopped begging for justice, when it walked away from the table and decided to build something new in the darkness. But first, the galaxy would have to learn what it had lost. 80 months after humanity left, the galaxy began to notice the empty spaces. Trade Minister Barak of the Hestian Commonwealth stood in his office overlooking the capital city's medical district. Through the window, he could see the central hospital, its emergency wing dark. The building still had power, but 3 floors remained closed because they lacked the medical equipment needed to treat patients. Specifically, they lacked human-made nanite injectors. The devices were simple enough. A patient received an injection of microscopic machines that could regrow damaged tissue, repair broken bones, even restore severed limbs over time. Humans had shared the technology freely 15 years ago, asking only for raw materials and trade. The nanites had saved millions of lives across council space. Now the supplies were running out. The Hestians had tried to manufacture their own, but something in the process eluded them. The nanites they produced either did nothing or attacked healthy tissue. Human engineers had made it look easy, but the science involved was far more complex than anyone realized. Borak pulled up his supply reports. Medical nanites were not the only problem. Agricultural optimizers that doubled crop yields on harsh worlds. Quantum batteries that powered stations for decades without degradation. Atmospheric processors that made toxic worlds breathable in half the time of traditional methods. All human technology. All running out. He had sent trade delegations to the outer veil 3 times. They found human colony worlds easily enough. The settlements were right where the old charts indicated, orbiting the same stars, occupying the same planets, but they were empty, not destroyed, not damaged, simply empty. The first delegation had landed on New Sol, a colony world that housed 8 million humans before the Exodus. The cities were intact. Power grids hummed with energy. Automated systems maintained streets and buildings. Gardens grew in perfect geometric patterns, tended by machines. But not a single human remained. The delegation searched for clues. They found personal belongings in homes, as if people had simply vanished mid-activity. Meals sat on tables, preserved by stasis fields. Children's toys lay scattered in parks. But every computer system had been wiped clean. Every database was empty. Every piece of research data had been deleted. The humans had taken their knowledge and disappeared. Borak authorized more expeditions. 12 human worlds were investigated. All showed the same pattern. Intact infrastructure, functioning systems, zero population. Where had 40 billion humans gone? The question bothered him, but the Thrace Dominion saw opportunity instead of mystery. If the humans had abandoned their worlds, then those worlds were available for claiming. The Thrace announced a grand expansion, planning to colonize 12 new systems, including 3 former human worlds. Fleet Admiral Taiyang Cho watched the announcement from the bridge of the horizon's end. A ship that existed in no registry, filed in no database, appeared on no council tracking system. Humanity had been busy during their 18 months of silence. They are sending colony ships to New Bizin, his tactical officer reported. Taiyang nodded slowly. How many? 16 vessels, carrying approximately 400,000 colonists. And the other targets? Colony fleets en route to New Seoul and Port Incheon as well. Total Thrace colonization effort numbers 48 ships and 1.2 million colonists. Taiyang stood and walked to the observation window. The outer veil stretched before him. Dark nebulas and rogue stars creating a maze that council species considered too dangerous to navigate. Humans had learned to call it home. Send the signal, Taiyang ordered. Begin Operation Reckoning. The Thrace colony fleet arrived at New Bizan system 3 weeks later. Their sensors immediately detected anomalies. The planet's atmosphere had changed. Where there should have been oxygen and nitrogen, their readings showed only trace gases. The cities that should have dotted the continents were gone, leaving bare rock. The star itself flickered with unusual energy patterns. Before the Thrace could investigate further, their ships detected a single message buoy broadcasting on all frequencies. The message was simple, delivered in perfect Thrace language. This world died with our people. So shall yours. The Thrace fleet commander dismissed it as a bluff. He ordered the colony ships to proceed to alternate sites in the system. They could establish orbital habitats instead of planetary colonies. Then the reports began arriving from Thrace space. 16 colony worlds, spread across Thrace territory, all reported catastrophic system failures within the same hour. Atmospheric processors shut down, leaving populations gasping in thinning air. Water purification plants stopped working, and storage tanks showed contamination. Power grids cascaded into failure, plunging cities into darkness that no ships had attacked. No armies had invaded. The infrastructure simply stopped working, because humans had built most of it. Over the past 20 years, human engineering firms had constructed or upgraded systems across council space. They had done excellent work, always delivered on time, and charged reasonable prices. The council species had been happy to employ human expertise. Now they understood why the prices had been so reasonable. The humans had built in access points, override codes, and remote shutdown capabilities that no one else knew existed. The Thrace Dominion mobilized its military fleet. 2,000 warships gathered and jumped toward the outer veil, determined to find the humans and make them pay for this attack. The fleet never returned. No distress calls were received. No debris fields were found. The ships simply vanished into the outer veil, as if they had never existed. Borak sat in an emergency council session, listening to panicked representatives demand action. The Varani proposed sanctions, but against whom? The humans were gone. The Methri suggested military intervention, but the Thrace fleet's disappearance made that option terrifying. We must negotiate, Borak argued. Send envoys. Establish contact. Find out what they want. The Varani High Speaker nodded agreement. Approved. Minister Borak, you will lead the delegation. Borak spent 2 weeks preparing. He drafted proposals, peace offerings, and trade agreements. He assembled a team of experienced diplomats and loaded a ship with gifts and goodwill gestures. The ship launched toward the outer veil, broadcasting friendship on all channels. 3 days later, it returned. The ship was undamaged, the crew was unharmed, but they brought back only a single message, delivered by an automated system that activated when they crossed into the veil. The message played in the council chamber. Aijin Park's voice calm and clear. Humanity does not accept hails at this time. Do not send more delegations. Do not enter the outer veil. Do not attempt to contact us. When we are ready to speak, you will know. The transmission ended. The council chamber sat in stunned silence. They had believed the humans would come back, that they needed council space, council trade, council protection, that without the council, humanity would collapse. Instead, humanity had thrived in the darkness. And now the galaxy was learning what it meant to be ignored. Councillor Venn of the Methri Cooperative called the emergency session to order with 3 sharp strikes of his ceremonial staff. The council chamber was fuller than it had been in decades. Every species had sent their highest-ranking representatives. Fear had a way of demanding attention. The human situation has become intolerable, Ben announced. Their attacks on Thrace worlds, their refusal to communicate, their complete disregard for council authority. This cannot stand. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The Thrace representative, still reeling from the loss of their military fleet and the collapse of their colony worlds, demanded justice. They must be found and punished, the Thrace insisted. Their actions constitute acts of war against a council member species. The Varani High Speaker raised a hand for silence. Agreed. But how do we find them? The outer veil is vast and unmapped. Every expedition we send either returns with nothing or does not return at all. The Varani Intelligence Network, suggested a delegate from the Karathi Union. Your agents are the finest in known space. Surely they can locate the human settlements. The Varani speaker nodded slowly. We will deploy our intelligence division immediately. What happened next would later be called the Turning. The Varani Intelligence Network was legendary. Agents trained from youth in deception, infiltration, and information gathering. They could blend into any society, extract any secret, and disappear without trace. Over 300 agents were deployed into the outer veil. Using every trick and technology the Varani possessed, 67 returned. When they came back, they were changed. The agents filed reports as required, but the reports were strange. They described finding human settlements easily, being welcomed openly, and being shown things that challenged everything they believed about civilization and power. They spoke of human society as if it were revelation, using words like freedom and dignity with unusual emphasis. Then they began broadcasting. Varani intelligence agents, trained to be invisible and loyal, suddenly started sending messages across Varani space. They transmitted human music, human philosophy, and human arguments for why the council system was fundamentally broken. They did not seem coerced. They seemed convinced. The Varani government tried to silence them, but the agents had scattered across their homeworld, using every communication channel available. Within weeks, Varani civilians were listening to these broadcasts and asking uncomfortable questions about their own government. Dr. Minji Isio watched the reports from a command center buried beneath a rogue planet's frozen surface. Around her, screens displayed information from across council space. Not just military intelligence, but everything. Financial records, personal communications, government secrets. Humanity had been watching for 30 years. Recording everything, waiting. The Varani situation is progressing as expected, reported her assistant. 17% of their population is now questioning council authority. Good, Minji said. Begin Phase 2. Phase 2 involved messages. Personal messages, sent to specific individuals across council space. A Methri senator received evidence of her secret financial accounts, filled with bribes from corporations she was supposed to regulate. The evidence appeared on her personal terminal with a simple note: "Your people should know." A Thrace military commander found files detailing the massacre in New Bizon, including his own orders and video of him congratulating soldiers for their efficiency. The files were sent to every news organization in Thrace space. Korathi business oligarch discovered his hidden assets had been emptied. The funds transferred directly to the worker populations he had exploited for decades. No explanation was given, except payment owed. Across council space, powerful individuals woke to find their secrets exposed, their crimes documented, and their corruption laid bare. The information came from nowhere and everywhere. Council security services could not trace the source. The leaks continued day after day, each one carefully chosen to cause maximum disruption. Governments collapsed. Politicians fled. Populations revolted. The council species began turning on each other. The Muthari accused the Varani of harboring human sympathizers. The Korathi claimed the Thrace had made secret deals with humanity. Trade routes shut down as ships refused to dock at stations that might be compromised. The information network that connected council space, partly built and maintained by human-designed systems, became unreliable. Messages arrived corrupted. Data disappeared from secured archives. Communication delays stretched from minutes to hours. No one knew what was true anymore. Captain Diane Kim sat in his ready room aboard the Horizon's End, reviewing reports of 3 council species on the brink of civil war. Commander Jiwan Han stood beside him, her expression troubled. "Is this what we wanted?" Jiwan asked quietly. Doyen was silent for a long moment. Outside his window, the darkness of the outer veil stretched endlessly, dotted with the lights of human stations and ships that now numbered in the thousands. "We wanted justice," he finally said. "They taught us this is how you get it. By breaking them? By showing them what they really are." Diane pulled up an image on his screen. It showed the council chamber during humanity's last session, with representatives working on tablets and ignoring Hyjin's words. They ignored genocide because it was convenient. They protected the powerful because they were the powerful. "We are simply revealing the truth they worked so hard to hide." Jiwan looked at the reports again. Cities burning. Governments falling. Populations demanding answers their leaders could not provide. "Some of those people are innocent," she said. "So were the 2 million on New Bizon." Doyen's voice was hard. "We gave them evidence. We gave them time. We gave them every chance to do the right thing. They chose comfort instead. And now? Now they learn that comfort has a price." Back in the council chamber, Ven tried to maintain order as representatives shouted accusations at each other. The Varani delegation walked out, refusing to participate while they dealt with domestic unrest. The Thrace were threatening military action against anyone they suspected of helping humanity. The Methri proposed forming a security alliance, but no one trusted anyone enough to join. The council was eating itself. In her command center, Minji watched it all unfold with clinical detachment. She had been a civilian psychologist before humanity left council space. She had studied group behavior, social systems, and the way societies maintain stability. Now she used that knowledge to pull those systems apart. Dr. Seo, one of her analysts, called out, "We are receiving reports of Hestian ships entering the outer veil. They are broadcasting requests for asylum." Minji pulled up the details. 12 Hestian vessels, mostly civilian transports, fleeing the chaos in council space. They were not attacking or demanding. They were asking for help. "What are your orders?" the analyst asked. Minji considered. This was new. Council species coming to humanity not as enemies or investigators, but as refugees. Grant them safe passage, she decided. Take them to Settlement Gamma. Process them as potential allies. The analyst nodded and relayed the orders. Across council space, more ships began making the same choice. Not all species, not even most species, but enough. People who saw their governments crumbling, who recognized the old system was dying, who decided to take a chance on the unknown rather than burn with the familiar. Humanity had learned patience during 30 years at the council table. They had learned to watch, to wait, and to understand their enemies better than their enemies understood themselves. Now they were learning something new. They were learning how to build something from the ashes they had created. The council chamber had fewer members now. 17 species had withdrawn in the past 6 months, either collapsing into civil war or simply declaring they could no longer trust the council system. The remaining delegates sat in a room that felt too large, their voices echoing in empty spaces. Councillor Ven stood at the central podium, his usual composure cracked by desperation. "We've tried diplomacy. We have tried isolation. Nothing works. The humans are destroying us piece by piece, and we cannot even find them." The Varani High Speaker, looking older than before, nodded wearily. "What do you propose?" "We hire the Krell pact." Silence crashed through the chamber. The Krell pact was not discussed in polite company. They were mercenaries, raiders, species too violent and unstable for council membership. The council had kept them at arm's length for centuries, using them only in the most desperate situations. "The Krell are barbarians," protested a Karathi delegate. "The Krell are hunters," Ven corrected. "They do not fear the unknown. They do not hesitate. They find prey and eliminate it. That is what we need." The vote was close, but desperation won. The council authorized contact with the Krell pact and offered them a contract. Find humanity's hidden worlds and end the threat. Payment would be substantial. The Krell would be allowed to keep any resources they found. Warlord Crash received the offer aboard his flagship, a massive warship built from the salvaged remains of 100 conquered vessels. He was large even for his species, covered in scars from battles fought across the galaxy's dangerous edges. "How many ships do you want?" the council envoy asked nervously. Crash smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "All of them." 10,000 warships gathered at the edge of council space. The Krell fleet was a nightmare of mismatched vessels, each one armed to excess, each crew hungry for violence. They had never faced an enemy they could not break. They should have feared humanity. The fleet entered the outer veil with sensors active and weapons ready. They moved in organized waves, searching every system methodically. For 3 weeks, they found nothing but empty space and automated warning buoys. Then they detected a structure orbiting a brown dwarf star. Scans showed it was a research facility, human design, approximately 5 years old. Life support was offline. No power signatures. No defensive systems. Crash studied the sensor data with suspicion. "It looks abandoned." "Perhaps they evacuated when they detected our fleet," suggested his tactical officer. "Or perhaps it is a trap." "Warlord, We have searched 40 systems and found nothing. If this is a trap, at least we will have found something. Crash considered, then nodded. Send a landing party. 100 soldiers. Full combat gear. If anything moves, destroy it. The landing party descended to the facility's docking bay. The structure was indeed abandoned. Lights flickered on as they moved through corridors, triggered by motion sensors. The facility was clean, organized, and filled with research equipment. Colonel Jun-Ho Lee watched from orbit aboard the Eternal Resolve. Invisible to Krell sensors, thanks to stealth technology the Council had never imagined existed. Beside him, tactical displays showed the Krell fleet positioning around the brown dwarf. Exactly as predicted. They have taken the bait, his weapons officer reported. How long until the landing party reaches the core? 17 minutes. Jun-Ho nodded. Proceed with the operation. Inside the facility, Krell soldiers moved deeper into the structure. They found laboratories filled with research that made their military scientists excited. Genetic warfare systems. Quantum destabilization weapons. Stellar engineering designs on a scale the galaxy had never seen. But still no humans. The soldiers reached the facility's core, a massive chamber containing the main reactor and primary computer systems. Data terminals lined the walls, displaying research that would take years to fully analyze. The lead soldier activated his communicator. Warlord, you need to see this. The amount of technology here is extraordinary. Secure it all, Kresh ordered. I am sending engineers. That was when the facility locked down. Blast doors slammed shut throughout the structure. The docking bay sealed, trapping the Krell shuttle. Life support systems activated, but instead of breathable air, they began pumping something else into the corridors. Not poison. Catalytic particles. Microscopic machines designed for a single purpose. The Krell soldiers tried to escape, but every exit was sealed. They fired on the doors, but the structure was built to withstand starship weapons. Some tried to override the controls, but the computer systems responded in human language. Goodbye. The reactor began to overheat. Not a malfunction. A controlled burn designed to reach critical mass at a precise moment. Aboard his flagship, Kresh saw the power spike on his sensors. Get our people out now. But it was too late. The facility's reactor exploded, and the brown dwarf star, seeded with catalytic particles over years of careful preparation, reacted. The particles spread through the star's mass, creating chain reactions that normally took millions of years. The brown dwarf ignited. It became a star. Brief and savage, burning with fury that caught the Krell fleet in its gravity well. Ships tried to escape, but the gravitational shift was too sudden, too massive. They were pulled toward the new star like insects toward flame. 9,000 ships burned in nuclear fire. The survivors. Approximately 1,000 vessels scattered at the edge of the system, watched in horror as their fleet died. Then they ran, jumping to faster than light speed without proper calculations, desperate to escape whatever nightmare humanity had prepared. They survived, but they carried something with them. The catalytic particles had spread beyond the facility, coating every ship that came close. The particles did not kill, but they broadcast a signal on frequencies only human sensors could detect. Every Krell ship now announced its location to any human vessel within range. JUNHO watch the enemy fleet scatter. Begin Phase 2. Destroy 1 ship per week. Random selection. Not all of them? His weapons officer asked. No, we want them to fear. Dead enemies do not spread fear. Enemies who wait for death, who do not know when it will come, who tear themselves apart, wondering who will be next. Those enemies spread fear very effectively. The first Krell ship died 3 days later. It was a supply vessel heading toward Krell territory. A human strike ship appeared from nowhere, destroyed it in seconds, and vanished before anyone could respond. 1 week later, a Krell warship protecting a mining colony exploded. No warning, no survivors. Another week passed. A Krell command ship, surrounded by defensive fleets, simply broke apart in space. Witnesses claimed they saw nothing, detected nothing, until their flagship was debris. The Krell pact began to unravel. Ships refused to fly in groups, fearing they would be targeted. Then ships refused to fly alone, fearing they were easier prey. Warlords accused each other of sabotage. Crews mutinied, believing their commanders had made deals with humans. Within 6 months, the Krell pact destroyed itself more thoroughly than any enemy could have. The galaxy received another message, broadcast across all frequencies in perfect translation. We did not start this, but we will finish it. In the council chamber, the remaining delegates sat in shocked silence. Some began arguing for reconciliation. Return to diplomacy. Surely there must be a way to negotiate. But humanity did not answer hails anymore. The council sent envoys. The envoys returned with the same automated message. Humanity does not accept hails at this time. They sent gifts, peace offerings, reparations for past wrongs. Everything was returned unopened. They sent formal apologies, signed by every remaining council member. The documents came back with a single note. Too late. Councillor Venn sat alone in his office, looking at casualty reports. Not just from the Krell, from everywhere. Council species fighting each other. Governments collapsing. Infrastructure failing. Millions dead or displaced, all because they had ignored 2 million humans on New BUSAN. The price of that decision had come due, and the galaxy was paying with everything it had. 3 years after humanity left the council, the galaxy was unrecognizable. Ambassador Hyjin Park stood on the observation deck of the Eternal Resolve, watching a fleet of ships arrive at Rally Point Meridian. The vessels came from dozens of species, most of them refugees from council space, some of them former council members who had declared independence. They came seeking protection, seeking alliance, seeking the one power in the galaxy that seemed to know what it was doing. The council still existed, technically. 43 species remained as members, down from 300. But its authority was shattered. The Grand Chamber above Varan Prime was half empty during sessions. Entire sectors of space had declared autonomy, forming their own governments and trade networks. The Thrace Dominion was a shadow of itself. Of their original 70 colony worlds, only 19 remained functional. The rest had been abandoned after infrastructure failures, or lost to civil wars, or simply evacuated because the population no longer trusted their government to keep them safe. Humanity had done this, not through direct warfare, but through patience, information, and the careful application of fear. Ambassador called Commander Jiwan from the bridge. The Hestian delegation is requesting a meeting. Hyjin nodded. Send them in. The Hestians entered nervously. Their leader, a female named Somin, who had been a minor council delegate before everything collapsed. She bowed in the human custom, a gesture of respect she had learned during her 3 months in human space. Ambassador Park, my government wishes to formally request membership in the Human Accord. The Human Accord. That was what the galaxy called it now, though humanity had never officially named their new civilization. It was not a government, not exactly. More like a network of human settlements, research stations, and military outposts spread across the outer veil and beyond. But it was also something more. A philosophy. A promise that justice meant something, that the strong had obligations to the weak, that civilizations were measured by how they treated the powerless. The Accord does not accept members lightly, Hyjin said carefully. We require transparency. We require commitment to genuine equality. We require that you abandon the hierarchical thinking that made the council corrupt. Soman nodded eagerly. We understand. We have reviewed the principles you broadcast. Our population supports them overwhelmingly. Because humanity have been broadcasting. Not propaganda, but simple truths. Recordings of council sessions where species pleaded for help and were ignored. Evidence of crimes covered up by council authority. Comparisons between what the council promised and what it delivered. The galaxy had been lied to for 12,000 years. Humanity simply showed them the truth. I will present your request to the Assembly, Hyjin said. But understand, joining the Accord means change. Real change. Your government structures, your economic systems, your social hierarchies. All of it will be examined and reformed. We know, Soman said quietly. We watched what happened to the Varani. The Varani had been the first council species to join the Human Accord 6 months ago. Their population had revolted after the intelligence agents revealed government corruption. The Varani High Speaker had fled, and the civilization collapsed into chaos. Humanity offered help, but with conditions. The Varani had to restructure their entire government, establishing democratic systems with real accountability. They had to dismantle the intelligence network that had oppressed their population. They had to open their records and face their history. It was painful. But they were rebuilding now, stronger than before. You may go, Hyjin told Soman. We will send our answer within 10 days. After the Hestian left, Hyjin turned to find General Seok Park waiting. Seok was old now, his hair gray, his face lined from decades of military service. But his eyes were sharp as ever. We have 17 more species requesting to join the Accord, he reported. And the Council has sent another peace envoy. The Council sends envoys every week. This one is different. It is Councillor Ven himself. He's asking to speak directly with you. Hyjin considered. Ven had been one of the Council's most powerful voices, one of those who voted to delay investigating New Bizon. She had not spoken to him in 3 years. What does he want? To negotiate humanity's return to Council space. To restore order. To end the chaos. Hyjin almost laughed. Tell him no. There is more, Seok continued. He brings an offer. Full reparations for New Bizon. Prosecution of Thrace leadership. Reforms to Council procedures. He says the Council is ready to change. The Council is ready to survive, Hyjin corrected. They are not offering change because they believe it is right. They are offering it because they are desperate. Seok nodded. True, but does that matter? If we can achieve our goals without further bloodshed, is that not preferable? The question hung in the air. Hyjin thought about the past 3 years. The infrastructure failures that killed millions. The civil wars sparked by revealed corruption. The Krell fleet burning in nuclear fire. Humanity had wanted justice. They had achieved revenge. But was revenge the same as justice? Admiral Doyon entered the observation deck, his uniform crisp, his expression thoughtful. He had heard the conversation. The galaxy needs order, he said. Without it, billions will suffer. We did not want this responsibility, but we are the only ones who can provide it. By returning to the Council? Hyjin asked. No, Doyon said firmly. The Council is dead, even if it does not know it yet. But we could offer something better. Not membership, but partnership. Species that commit to real reform, real accountability, real equality. We help them rebuild. We share our technology again. We create something new from the ashes of what failed. Dr. Minji Seo joined them, having arrived from her command center. The psychological impact of the past 3 years has been severe. Council populations are traumatized. If we simply walk away now, the chaos will continue for decades. But if we become the new Council, argued Jiwan, who had also arrived, We are just repeating history. Power corrupts. We have seen it happen. The debate raged among humanity's leadership for days. Some argued for isolation, for letting the galaxy sort out its own problems. Others wanted full intervention, believing humanity had a moral obligation to provide stability. Still others proposed conditional engagement, helping only those who truly committed to change. Finally, they reached a decision. Hyjin composed a message, one that would be broadcast across all of known space, translated into every language, sent to every government and settlement. Humanity extends an invitation to all species who wish to join a new accord. Not the old council with new names, but something genuinely different. An alliance built on transparent justice, genuine equality, and mutual protection. The old hierarchy is dead. What comes next is your choice. Those who commit to reform will find humanity willing to help. Those who cling to the old ways will be left to face the consequences of their choices. We offer this invitation once. We will not beg. We will not negotiate with those who seek to preserve unjust power. We will not accept half measures or false promises. Choose wisely. The galaxy is watching. The transmission ended. Across known space, species gathered to debate their response. Some rejected it immediately, claiming humanity had no right to dictate terms. Others embraced it eagerly, seeing it as salvation from the chaos. But most fell somewhere in between, uncertain and afraid, trying to understand what this new order meant for their future. In the council chamber, Councillor Ven sat alone. The Varani High Speaker had resigned. Most delegates had stopped attending sessions. The grand institution that had ruled for 12,000 years was dying. He thought about Hyjin's final words before humanity left. You will find out. They had found out indeed. On the eternal resolve, humanity waited. They had learned patience during 30 years at the council table. They had learned when to fight and when to let others fight themselves. They had learned that fear was not about strength, but about unpredictability. Most importantly, they had learned that the galaxy would not change because someone asked nicely. It would change because change became the only option for survival. Now, they watched as their former oppressors made their choice. Some would join the new order. Some would resist and fall. Some would find their own path. Hyjin stood at the observation window, looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, 2 million humans had died on New Bizon, ignored by a galaxy that valued convenience over justice. Their deaths had been the price of the galaxy's comfort. Now, the galaxy was paying a different price. The price of learning that actions have consequences, that the weak eventually become strong, and that those who demand justice will eventually take it if it is not given. Humanity had left the table 3 years ago. The galaxy was only now discovering what that truly meant, and humanity was just getting started.